Hello and welcome to Radio Somanaut. I'm your host, Whitney Dawn Pyles, and in each episode, I'll be interviewing inspiring and innovative individuals who are impacting the world through somatics, using the modality we call body-oriented coaching. Each one of my guests is a Somanaut. That means they're a graduate of the Somatic School, an online educator that trains coaches to be stewards of the body's wisdom. We'll be hearing their stories and getting particularly curious about how they're carrying this impactful work into their lives and communities. So in the spirit of the Somatic School, my invitation to you is to embrace ease, take a breath in, and allow their words to be a welcome exhale. Hello and welcome to Radio Somanaut. I am full of anticipation, excitement, and joy today. I am joined by three of my course mates from the body-oriented coaching course through the Somatic School. We all did this together. We journeyed together through this program. We all graduated about 2.5 years ago now, which is wild. But this is our first reunion episode. So I'm joined today by Mike, Simon, Rachel Sitton, and Davide Barbuto. Welcome to Radio Somanaut, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank
you. And we are just going to do a little bit of catch up today. So wanting to do this sort of episode to really reconnect with these people that I had just a really meaningful experience with. And I'm also wanting to hear a little bit more about their journeys that I didn't catch or I maybe caught parts of as we were together through the course. So wanting to hear more about what brought them to the Somatic School as well as what they're doing now. And so I'd love to start from that place. Whoever wants to start first, but I'm just curious, where were you at before you found the Somatic School and what had you enroll? Why did you say yes to this shared experience that we went through together?
God, it's a cool question because it really is like time travel. My short story would be I was teaching yoga. I did my yoga teacher training in 2018. And I was tour guiding. I tour guided in Rome for over 10 years and worked in a lot of different facets of tourism, which is really people-oriented, but really not body-oriented. And really very hospitality. It's I look at it as I help people go on journeys outside, and now I help people go on journeys inside, but either way, it's a journey. So I think... And I moved into yoga teaching, and then there was the whole pandemic thing. So both of those things went online. For me as a tour guide, it was really disconnecting. And I enrolled in the Somatic School because in that time period, so like 21, I was speaking to all these different people. And in the course of about a month, I had 4 or 5 different people say, you should be a life coach. You should be a life coach. You should be doing something. I was basically talking about how I loved teaching yoga. I loved watching people's bodies, but I wanted to connect more verbally. And all these people were saying life coach. And for me, that took out yoga teaching. And it was a quick twist of fate. It was a beautiful twist of fate. It was it just fell in my lap. Like little research, this word somatic, which is wild. And I think we can all agree, how crazy is it seeing how trendy and buzzy the word somatic is now versus 2 years ago? Radar? Anyways, long story short, I found the Somatic School, enrolled really quick, and it changed my life in that way where it was like, it was the bridge or the thing that connected these two things I was doing, which now, and then we'll move into what we're doing now, whatever. But yeah, that's how I found it. And I think it was this desire to coach and explore people and where they explore people's landscape that they can communicate with their bodies and words outside of a lead yoga class, but being that body connection available. Also, I was not a body person. I was a head person in my sort of arc of life. So wanting more body stuff too. that's the short story.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel. That was great. That was great. I am laughing because I know you and I love you, Rachel. And that really was so succinct, and I'm really impressed. But I'm really loving that idea of taking people on this outward journey, and now in this shift of taking people on a journey inward, and not just from this place of the mind, but really wanting to find something that was connective. That word came up before we hit record, but something that was connective with wanting to go a little bit deeper with people, but still observing the way bodies were moving and what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really loving that. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, Davide, Mike, whoever wants to jump in on that. But what brought you to the Somatic School? Where were you at?
Yeah, I'm happy to go. Even though I feel my memory didn't form yet in my head, but I like to develop that while I start speaking. Yeah, I hope it's okay. So
Yes.
I do remember. So basically, where I was is that I was an engineering manager. So I was working in IT world. I was managing people, and I'm still into that field. Spoiler alert for the next question. But in different ways. But what I want to say is that what brought me to becoming a manager, so managing people, is because I realized in the past that I wanted to work with people and support people in whatever way it meant. And I heard the word coaching at the time, and so I did a training into coaching, which was, I don't remember how many years ago right now, but probably was 5 to 6 years ago. It was my first training in coaching. But there was something missing. I always felt there was something missing. I still feel that strongly that coaching is very powerful. A part of me is a bit concerned about the coaching, which is only cognitive in a way, for many reasons, because we might easily influence people with our own beliefs. And so there was something holding me back with that kind of practice. I think there is a lot of value there. I'm not talking bad about that, but I have a little bit of concern there. And it was kind of holding me back for getting fully into it. There was something missing. And also because, yeah, for me, it's very important that coaching is the least intrusive as possible. It really needs to be a safe space for people to unfold in any way. And then I heard about somatic coaching, the Somatic Coach School, and I decided to apply. And that I found exactly what I was looking for, because it's really a practice, or I mean, the tools that we learn there, in my opinion, are the least intrusive I've ever heard. It's really a matter of creating the conditions, the space, of facilitating the process. There is no intervention. Even what what we call into the school, what we call intervention, for me, it's not even an intervention. Really, it's really maybe a little touch, a little tap or something. So it feels very safe to me. It's a very safe environment. I love that, and that resonated with me a lot, and that's why I took that path, and that's why I feel that, yeah, this is something I can do. One thing that I feel like it's very important to me that I realized is that I believe I guess, but I imagine that most of our challenges or things that block us for doing something, or that creates anxiety or fears and so on, are somehow created by our cognitive, by our mind. And solving the problems with the same tool, which is the mind only, it might not work out sometimes. I do believe that going through the body can really bring, of course, other wisdom. There's a lot we can talk around here, but I really believe that solving the issues with the same tool that is kind of creating the issue, it works, right? But I imagine it's way more challenging, and sometimes it's not really working, because there is still something there. Because I do think the body has a wisdom and holds a lot of truth that we tend to ignore. We tend to ignore when we are staying with the mind. Yeah. That's another reason I thought about joining the Somatic School. Yeah.
Yeah. Something about effectiveness there, not trying to create the solution from the same place that the challenge emerged from.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Mike, do you want to share on this, just your journey to enrollment?
My journey to enrollment. When you said that question, there was like some laughter. As I laughed, I felt my abs tense, and it's like, it was interesting to sort of notice that, as you said, because it's like reflecting on where I was and noticing where I am now is they're very distinctly different places. And so when I try and be short because there's so many different dots, but it was like the pandemic period. I remember I just came back from Thailand. I went into some research and development. I've got a dance background, and so I went into R&D for 2 weeks because I was working on a show. And then obviously lockdown happened. And throughout this period, from what I remember, and my memory probably is a bit jumbled, but there was a lot of things happening in the world at that time. There always is, but at this particular time, in my world and in the wider world. I believe around that time there was some of the Black Lives Matter resurgence and stuff like that taking place. There was a few things happening or being spoken about within the community, the dance community that I was in, that was a bit tender and triggering. And there was also things going on in my immediate world. For instance, I was going through court, and I've been very open, even in my content that I share, been very open about that experience. And so there was a lot of things taking place during that time. And I also started a subscription box company off the back of all of those things taking place, with the intention of cultivating conversations for men around mental health. So based on the experiences that I had a breakdown years before. I was like, okay, I want to do something. I've got more free time because it's lockdown and I'm working from home and I love creating things, etc. So I set out and created this business. And I very quickly brought that business to a close. Not purely because it wasn't making the money that I wanted, but it was just very time consuming and it wasn't making the money. And I felt myself being pulled in different directions. I was having conversations with men around men's mental health, both through the business and also in my personal circles, but there was still something missing, kind of echoing what Davide was saying. There was still something missing. And so somehow the social media, algorithm, etc., I stumbled across life coaching and started to explore that. But I didn't know much about life coaching. From what I did know, there was often individuals that called themselves life coaches and they didn't have a good name about them. They was always in some sort of entanglement that you would hear about them. And so I was a bit like, okay, I don't know. Anyway, I went into it and I paid $30 for a Udemy course on life coaching. It was self-guided, just to sort of like whet my appetite to see if this is the thing. At that point, I was also working a second job at Domino's, and I was binging on life coaching podcasts in my evening shift. So I would do my day job, and I was working in administration. Still do alongside coaching, but I was working in administration, and in the evening I was delivering pizza, and I'd be playing podcast after podcast after podcast after podcast about life coaching. I was like, oh, this is a thing. People are making money, and they're declaring quite healthy sums of money. But that was never the reason why I was interested. It was because I wanted to find something that could be a vessel for whatever was within me, but I couldn't really make sense of, because people would come to me for advice or guidance or to hear my thoughts. And at a lot of times it was quite overwhelming. It was like, well, I need someone to speak to, but everyone's coming to me. So I went down the life coaching path, did that, changed my bio on Instagram to life coach. And of course, I became an easy target for the coaches who coach coaches to be better coaches. And they was in my inbox. And I was like, this is a lot, but I thought that's what you had to do, right? I thought this is what coaching is about, right? And then I stumbled across a guy on Instagram who positioned himself as like a spiritual men's business coach. I think that was sort of his niche at the time. And he posted a video that was him moving. Now, like I said a few minutes ago, I've got a dance background. And I saw him, and there was no judgment, but I was like, he's not dancing, he's moving. It's just not, it was unfamiliar to what I'm so used to, with a professional background. And it wasn't a judgment, it was just more of an observation, like, what is he doing? Then there was a hashtag, somatic. And that's when I was like, what's somatic mean? Because I've never heard of this word before. That opened up a whole nother
Wow.
realm, and I started diving deep into, okay, what is somatic? What does this mean? Might I start to explore dance movement psychotherapy, because then I can blend my movement with being able to help people from a therapeutic perspective. Then I saw that I would have to go to uni and study, and I was like, I don't want to do that for 3 years. I don't really want to do that. And then somehow, divinely, I stumbled across the Somatic School website. Now, prior to that, I just didn't feel like I didn't know what I was looking for, but I didn't feel like I was finding whatever I was looking for, and a lot of the websites and places that I was looking at as a black man, I didn't feel there was a lot of representation. They was mostly female oriented, yoga mats, older than me. And I was like, the text and what they're sharing, written form, sounds really interesting, but I just don't feel like I'm gravitating towards seeking out more about this particular course or this particular school. Came across the Somatic School website, clean, fresh, very clear, jumped on a welcome call, pardon me, and yeah, echoing what Rachel said, and as cliche as it can sound when people say this, my life has forever been changed since enrolling with the Somatic School. It came at the right time for me, even though I didn't know what I was looking for. It came at the right time, and the more after the welcome call and sort of exploring a lot more, in the conversation I had with Nathan, a lot of the lack of clarity and the unanswered questions, or maybe the questions, because I don't think I had the questions, all started to come up and connect when I was speaking with Nathan on that initial call before enrolling, because I started to see the link between my movement practice, the body, somatics, my desire to help people. It just all came together. And then obviously the next 6 to 7 months made even more sense of that, as to how I might be able to bring everything in a container that is known as coaching, and not the same that from the self-guided coaching that I learned, which was very heady, kind of coming off what Davide was saying, like very heady, very in the conceptual self-awareness landscape that we know about. It was very cognitive. It gave me a foundation, but then doing the Somatic School, it was almost like when you can't unsee. I couldn't unsee what I had learned through the Somatic School. I couldn't revert, and I never will revert back to sort of the elementary stages of my experience with coaching. I couldn't just go back and be like, oh, I'm going to dabble with these life coaching skills that I learned off of the Udemy coaching course. It was good for a foundation, but the Somatic School completely shifted my way of seeing life, my personal life, and also has allowed me to start to continue and to start to build a coaching practice, where I'm helping individuals to explore themselves and help them to tap into those inner limiting beliefs, connect with their body and create the life that they desire and that they're dreaming of. That wasn't short.
It was so beautifully expressed, though. Really, really, really hearing you. And I think I heard this from Rachel as well, or maybe all of us share this, but this searching for something that would bring it all together. And whether that's bringing it all together in terms of the modalities or the ways that we were desiring or already working with people, bringing that together, but also, this bringing together of body, mind, spirit for some, for those that use that language, but really just this binding something, right? That we were searching for individually, and kind of landing together in this space to explore that. And I think that's where some of the magic comes from, is that connection, those connective experiences, those bridges that are being built between one another, as well as between our life experiences that had us get to this point, or at least had the algorithm find us as well. So, yeah, and everyone has kind of touched on, my life has changed, right? I've been impacted. My life has been changed by this experience. And so I'd love to just hear a little bit more on that. You know, how has life changed, or how have you been impacted as a result of somatics, body oriented coaching, the container, all of the above?
Oh,
God, the first thing I was going to say is my life has become embodied. And therefore, once I became embodied, I was able to transmit that in a way, I am able to transmit it in a way that the people around me and the people I work with have like, it's a ripple effect, right? So like for me, for example, I guess I could talk about the practical stuff, which is I lead retreats. Now I was doing it a little bit before, but I'm like really pretty full time. Well, right now it feels very full time doing it now. And I had been really looking for this bridge between yoga and the other 23 hours of our day, or 22 hours if you're doing a lot of yoga, and maybe 21 even. Anyways, the point being that my own, like, my own embodiment, which happened after taking this course and being able to be in this online space, like none of us have met each other in human one-on-one form, like, which is wild. And I know y'all better than I know. I mean, definitely better than I know plenty of acquaintances. Like, I was going to say better than I know some of my friends. However, that sort of feeds to my next point, which is once I realized that we could connect like this and we're all the same, right? Like everyone in our course, it was just like, oh, like when given the right prompts, the right openings, most people are willing and able to go deeper and more vulnerable than we might have than you might expect. This honestly, that society teaches us that people can. So once I saw that, it was like, well, I want that to happen with, if that we can connect like this, then I can certainly connect with more people like this in flesh, in face to face. And I can do it more with my friends, and I can kind of live by example. And I do coach people online one-on-one, and I can fully trust that even if you're not physically in each other's presence, which in my humble opinion, especially in this world right now, is generally like, God, I wish we were all in a room together. However, what an incredible thing that we can all connect here, and we can connect to our bodies while we're connecting to each other. And it's this incredible ripple effect of allowing people to get that and then pass that on in the world. Anyways, point being that that's where I am now, is deep reverence for the online space we created together, which allows me to create in-person experiences and in-person spaces where like really pretty as immediately and directly as possible, trust that everyone's bodies have stories that they're ready and willing to tell them if I give them space. So I don't have to like tick, 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 tick. Like, yeah, I can trust, which was a word we used before as well. Trust the process. And yeah, so that's like what I'm doing with this. And I see the ripple effect continuing to expand so much more in the future, in my future, in all of our futures.
Yeah. So hearing this idea of living embodied, and demonstrating what that looks like, and the oh, what is the word that once said here? Yeah, really showing the impact, showing the potential for nourishment that's possible for others. So almost emanating that out through holding space as a retreat leader, as well as a one-on-one coach working virtually, and just through interaction, through friendship, through just being with people and emanating that
Yeah.
out, as well as it sounds like really having developed it sounds like a trust for the process in terms of the coaching space and just held spaces that you're curating and cultivating, but also something about trusting that when others are given the space, they are also capable of this deep knowing and this intrinsic I'm going to use cultivation again of relationship with their body and trust for the wisdom that's there.
And just to say, just back to journey outside, journey inside, like we're all capable of going on big outward journeys. We're all capable of going on big inward journeys, all of us.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah. Davide, Mike, how has your life changed? How have you been impacted?
Yeah. Well, I coach online. That wasn't happening before. That's a big change. Yeah, so continuously building and developing and learning a lot of the business side of coaching, which is for me, it's a thing in and of itself. And yes, the training that we went through was never um, marketed as that package, um, but coming out with the skills and the level of awareness of what might be possible in life, that has changed a lot in terms of having the skill and cultivating the business acumen to be able to utilize the skill in a way that will create the life that I want and be able to support others to create the lives that they want. Relationships have changed in terms of my life, relationship with self, relationship with my partner, relationship with others, noticing things differently, kind of re-sharing what I said earlier about like this idea of like a veil's been lifted and I can't unsee or undo what I now know in terms of being able to slow down, being able to name as close as I can what I'm experiencing. If I can't name it with something that there can be some descriptive language around, maybe this tightness in my chest, this tightness like whatever it may be, sort of constricting. I now have the language or a broader vocabulary to express myself with regards to those feelings that I'm feeling within me. Whereas before, I don't think that I had that. I don't think I had that capacity to feel safe enough. And even if there's a bit of discomfort, still be able to speak. For instance, kind of real life examples. My partner and I, we might have like some, there might be a bit of tension, a bit of conflict or, disagreement. But me feeling safe enough and comfortable enough to literally, I think I did it today. We wasn't even arguing, but there was something that was activated in me. And I just stood up. I said, I'm feeling a bit cold. The window was open, but I'm feeling a bit cold. I was feeling and noticing that shift in my body and noticing that it's because of the topic of what I was speaking about was quite activating. And so I could name that. And I can also use some of the skills that are not only used from a coaching one-to-one perspective, but also for myself. Instead of saying I'm stressed, I might say, there's a part of me that's feeling stressed. Whereas it's like, I'm stressed, man. this is annoying, this. So my language has changed. My relationships have changed. I've built the business that's changed. Yeah, so many things have changed, and that's because the opportunity emerged 2.5 years ago to embark on a journey with the Somatic School, and you guys alongside as my classmates. And yeah, that's where I
The best.
stuff. The best.
Yeah, I love the bit about the language has changed. I'm really resonating with that. Whereas before it was, I'm stressed. This is just who I am. This is just who I am now. No, something in me is stressed. And I love really that personal and professional of this is what's changed in my professional life. But just life again, that connection, not that separation of work life, just this is all one journey. And so having this way of interacting with the world is influencing both how you're showing up professionally, what you're doing professionally, as well as how you're engaging with, as you said, your partner, yourself. So again, just that loving that bridge piece and that really holistic change and impact. Thank you, Davide.
Yeah, maybe what I can add as well, because everything resonates in a way. Maybe my contribution to this question, let's say, could be related to the fact that when I joined the school, I feel I experienced already feeling my body more. Some of these things were kind of there already for me, but I didn't have a structure. I didn't know how to really name them in a way. I knew that I needed to feel my body to understand my body more, and some of the language things I also went through them in my previous experiences in some work I've done on myself already. I don't know if I like the word work on myself or with myself, but anyway, I will think about it. Maybe I don't have to think about it now. Yeah, and with the school, I had the framework. I got the tools to understand, maybe sometimes also the science behind, and have a framework around it, and that was very powerful for me as well. I really loved it, and it also gave me a lot of tools to start introducing into some practices, and it gave me ideas of things that I could start facilitating. How to bring it into what I could really bring into the corporate world, for example, as I was working, and I'm still working as an engineering manager or head of engineering now. So yeah, it gave me all of that, and of course also, again, giving more structure into what I really experience and bringing into my life. That's definitely true as well. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you, Davide. Yeah, there's a couple things here that want my attention, and I'm just gonna throw them. I'm just gonna throw them out, and you all can take either of these things in any direction. But yeah, there's two questions here. One is, and maybe they're connected, but one is, I think it's interesting the timing of our cohort, right? We started at the end of 2021. AKA my first trimester of pregnancy. That's just my personal experience. But the end of 2021. And so we've mentioned the pandemic and this massive collective shift, changing the way we're relating to one another. It feels like we're in a time right now. You know, we're in a time we're experiencing some things on a global collective level. And so I'm just curious where this work intersects for you. Why is this important? Why is somatics? Why is body-oriented coaching? Why is this way of existing imperative right now? So that's one. And very differently from that, is what's exciting you about this moment for yourself, for this work. So both why is this imperative to where we're at on a collective level, and then yeah, maybe what's exciting you personally about the continuation of this work. Complex question.
And
Drop.
Can both be answered?
Yes, both can be answered.
Okay. So, look, the why now, I feel because generally, like in Western societies, we move so quickly and we can tend to be just like in our heads in our heads or heads down and in our phones and our devices, right? There's a lot more, working from home activity and, connecting with people online, etc. And the beautiful thing, how we were trained, was online. And I think the why now links to the fact that at a time where I feel that there's a lot of disconnection happening, body-oriented coaching, somatic coaching practices that are working with, or connecting, supporting the connection with individuals on a deeper level, despite the fact that we could be in different time zones and seeing each other on Zoom, we're still able to foster that connection. And I think that's why now it's important this work continues to develop. Not only from just the connection side of things, because I feel we are being more disconnected from each other, but also I think we're equally being as disconnected from ourselves because of everything else that's going on, right? And, people are working 40, 50 hours a week. They haven't got time for themselves. Self-care isn't really self-care anymore. People are like, oh, I'm eating and that's self-care. It's like, no, you should eat, and it's like the things are dropping off. And so by having a more body-oriented approach in life, not just in a professional, container one-to-one, but to be able to apply, the learnings in life, I think is so important. And I see that from when I'm working with an individual, that yes, we might be working on some things that are coming up with regards to business. And they're also noticing how some of those embodied practices that have come out from a session are extremely helpful in their day-to-day life. When they're having a conversation with their friend in a hallway, they're noticing how their posture is. So I think that's important. And what's exciting me, so I have to try and catch that one back. What's exciting me is just the possibilities that this work creates. The things that can come out of doing such work I can be in a 60-minute session, and even in some of the spaces that we've had when we've been in our breakout rooms when we were training, and the transformation that can take place, whether we're experiencing it ourselves or we're witnessing it, because sometimes, of course, we did that. It still blows my mind. And for me, that's exciting, because I'm thinking, well, what more can be done? The more we deepen into this work and the more we maybe understand some of the science behind, because I feel that I'm still scratching the surface. I think every time I'm scratching the surface in terms of the more theoretical side of things. But obviously how we learned, it was very experiential with the addition of the theoretical. I would like to explore more the theoretical, and there's a lot to explore. So that's exciting me as well.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, maybe I can go next. For me, why now? I believe we're in I think every moment has been a special moment probably, but I feel that with all the social networks and also the self-help industry, I think it's creating even more beliefs that are kind of creating more limits rather than supporting people into accepting themselves in a way. There is a lot around that, in my opinion, that it's a little bit threatening rather than really supporting. Also, because the whole well-being world now it's getting into corporates, and in my perspective, is being used a lot also for basically having people producing more. Which is a little bit counterproductive to what we have. What's the goal behind that, in my opinion? And that's that comes back to me. What excites me is that I see a lot of the tools that we learned in this school, or anyway the somatic approach, to really support people into accepting anything that is in their experience and to be true to themselves, regardless of what the society tells us, what Instagram tells us we should look like or be. And I really see the power of that. I really see how much, for example, I don't know if using a technical word like focusing session can really teach us to accept any experience we're having through our real selves rather than what we believe we should be or look like or feel like. And it's very exciting for me. Well, I don't know if this was really what I meant for exciting, but I really noticed that my mission for myself is that I really would like to have a world which is a bit kinder, and I would like to contribute to that in a way. And I feel these tools are basically that. That's a way to be kind to ourselves and therefore accept any experience that anyone else is having. Yeah, and I think we really need that nowadays, especially with all the pressure that the society is bringing to us and everything that is happening in the world in a way. So, yeah, there is a lot of potential, as Mike said, I feel, to maybe improve this world. Maybe it's a very big, ambitious thing, but that's I think there is the potentiality there. Yeah.
Thank you, Davide.
Yeah, I feel like I get to echo off of both of those because God, everything's coming up. Like, why do we need it now? Like, we need it now more than ever. Like, as we spend more times in virtual spaces, as we spend more times on our phones, as we are more globally connected for the goods and the bads, like the ability to come back into our own bodies, so important. It's like everything from video games that have to tell people to breathe because they get so into the virtual space that they forget about their own physical bodies. And it's like the reason it's so important is because we've now all learned this thing. Like, this is what was really resonating with me. We know how to connect with our bodies, and we know how to connect with other people's bodies virtually, and to give them the tools to connect with their bodies so that even in virtual spaces, we're able to stay present with where we are. Like, that's the first thing that's coming to me, is that if I will also echo, as someone who taught history for 10 years, that times are really intense now, and times have always been really intense. Like, there's always been it's what we do as humans. And I'm not saying times aren't more intense now. It's just recognizing that the thing that we always turn to in intense times, or the thing that, maybe not always, the thing that I hope that we continue to turn to in intense times, is connection to self and connection to others. And if there is going to be more connection in virtual spaces, for me, it's paramount. It is so fundamental to be able to connect to your body and to have people connecting to their bodies, even in virtual spaces. So that's just if I read a headline that's really intense and I'm able to connect back to my body instead of staying in the head, I can stay with the hurt, but instead of taking it in all from the neck up, I can take it in my whole body. And then I can quicker process it, which might not be getting rid of it, but it does mean juicing it, centrifugando, putting it in a juicer and mixing it. And the Italian word's so much more complete. It's being on that spin cycle and getting it out. And if I can do that, I think everyone can do it. And so I guess actually that's my perfect little step into what excites me right now, which is that we can be so connected in virtual spaces, and teaching that and letting that expand so that people understand in a bigger, broader sense. There is what Davide, I'll echo you, there is a kinder world out there, and we are all feeling things, and can we allow ourselves to really feel them? And then there's also this yeah, what excites me a lot, I don't want to, I wanted to go negative and be like, stupid, like influencers are going away. Yay. But like, what excites, I was more about like when in the last 2 years now there's like, because of course my like social media feeds me stuff like somatic workout, 28 days to having a bigger butt. And it's like, why is the word there? Like, because I have a body? What? But like, what really excites me now is that while somatic has become a little bit of a like hashtag buzzword, there's also this like whole world of people that just want to be real. Like authenticity is trending, which is a dumb thing to say, but it is so true. And I think as the world becomes more interconnected, and as we, like, God, we all started this after people, like, this is a moment in human history in terms of technology, like the pandemic and lack of connection and people moving towards individualism in a way that's really pretty unprecedented. Like loneliness is huge. Like we don't have to leave our spaces to do anything anymore. And so being able to connect virtually and then being able to take our connection to ourselves out into the world when we go out there, I find that really exciting. Like, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that bit of ironic laughter as well. Yeah. I think I'm just going to very quickly share on this, I think it's one answer as to why now and what excites me. And this is just a personal anecdote. So I just moved to a new state again. When I was first with you all, I had just moved to a different new state after traveling in a camper van for half a year, but I'm in another new state, and my partner and I went out to a concert. It's a soul funk, big band. And of hundreds of people, 4 of us were dancing. And so anytime I see that, I mean, come on, incredible band, Hoodoo Soul Band, tagging them. But every time I see that, the first thing that comes to me is, gosh, we have so much work to do. We have so much work to do. And maybe those people, it just feels better to them to sit, and I'm welcoming that. But how many of those people are just concerned with the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and the perception of others, and so worried about how they'll be perceived, and then the others knowing that there's judgment there, and are completely correct that there's judgment there, but just imagining a world where we come back to this version of humanity that's touched on in organic intelligence, which was part of the program, but this idea that we are the singing and dancing species. We are a species that's meant to be connected to one another, singing, dancing, sharing story, being authentic, being vulnerable. And so I think these small steps, these ambitious steps towards that reality is what really excites me. I'm imagining us like, I don't know, sorting and swimming and feeling our way through. And yeah. How's that been for you? What have you been navigating since we all had this collective experience together?
Yeah, for me, a large chunk of it has been like business related. There's been many challenges, many moments of discomfort since coming out of the Somatic School, and the word you used was contending, feeling like I'm contending with parts of the coaching, feeling like I'm contending with parts of the online coaching space. I'm trying to like really segment my experience, because this is no way me saying I felt like I was in a ring with everybody from the coaching industry. It's not that. It's definitely this particular part that I found myself operating in, which is social media predominantly, Instagram, Twitter, now X. And so when I came out of the Somatic School, it was like I couldn't unsee or unlearn what I had learned. And so by way of that, I was finding myself engaging in conversations that felt incongruent, particularly with coaches who coach coaches to become better coaches, like that particular segment of individuals on the internet, where a lot of what they were, well, first of all, and I'm not going to go into it because that's probably another 2 episodes in and of itself, but first of all, the kind of misconception, misrepresentation, misunderstanding of what I know coaching to be was not being demonstrated by the individuals that I was connecting with online predominantly. Like I would say 90% of those individuals were probably great mentors, great teachers, great facilitators in some sense. But as for coaching with an essence of purity, pure coaching as a foundation, it wasn't there. I didn't feel that from them. It was very my agenda leading you through an 8-week program to get you to an outcome that looks good for me, because then I can showcase and do a testimonial and do a case study because this is what I helped you do. It was the complete antithesis of what we had experienced through the Somatic School, which is heavily placed upon a person-centered approach, right? And there was this continuous bumping up against of, oh, maybe this question, oh, maybe I have to change myself to kind of fit into this box. Maybe I have to take what I've learned from the Somatic School and squeeze it tightly into the spaces that seem to be doing well, especially when you're seeing metrics, you're seeing loads of followers, you're seeing people talking about, I've made 20K this month. Next month, I'm set to make 50K. And, there's that part of me that wants some of, those financial rewards from what I'm creating to, live said lifestyle. But more and more as time went on from graduating to the Somatic School, I find myself in a place where I'm able to lean into myself, lean into the skills that I have a lot more to really find what is right for me in terms of how I'm building the business. And also even fellow individuals, you guys here being inspired by what you guys are building and how you're navigating your business building journey, to be inspired by, as opposed to looking to individuals who don't embrace the same qualities, the same beliefs, the same ways. And of course, all of you guys on here have different ways of approaching the work, but I feel there's a common factor. There's common factors in the way that your work is developing. And for me, just kind of sharing to those that are listening, those that may be watching or catching snippets, is that for me that was my real experience. That very challenging coming out of the Somatic School and finding my way, but with continuous conversations amongst yourselves, with the great community, the digital community, that exists as part of the Somatic School, because it's not just the training that you go through over the several months and the workshops and the labs, etc., etc. There's the fact that all of that is housed digitally for you to access. There's the fact that that's a growing community. Everyone that takes the course is, can be part of that digital community. And so it's nice to see what other people are doing and how other people are weaving their own threads into, the greater macro fabric of the somatic realm, and just seeing how all of that is moving. Yeah, that's what I've been working through from a business perspective. And there's a lot of learning, a lot of learning, a lot of introspection, a lot of okay, I can do this, instead of feeling like, oh, I need to do high ticket, and high ticket's the only way that you're going to make it as a coach. And if you don't do high ticket, then yeah, it's going to be really difficult for you. I did a constellations to do the pricing of my offers, and I did that recently. I was like, why did I not do this before? Nothing before its time, right? And I think that speaks to the fact that the Somatic School is not the skills, the experience and what is learned, at least for me from the Somatic School, and what I'm hearing from you guys as well. It's not just purely to learn these skills to become a coach. Some people are learning these skills to supplement what they're doing already. Maybe they're working in healthcare in some capacity, and they have no intentions to become a coach. And also how the skills can be utilized not only from a one-to-one or one-to-many perspective in terms of being of service to someone, but those same skills are in service to you as well, as the individual, as the learner, right? So you might use constellations to create your offers, to create, to forecast for your business, to observe, to get a felt sense of what support you have as you're building this thing and what blocks are in the way and where you are now and where you desire to be. That's constellations. You can use all of that for your business. And yes, that's not necessarily taught in the Somatic School, but through time and reflection and noticing, it's like, hold on, yeah. It's experimenting. It's playing. And that's what I really love about what I've been able to take away from the school. Not only like great digital relationships with yourselves and others, but lifelong skills that continue to develop beautifully over time.
I love so much of that. Like this, oh yeah, me. I can I can benefit from these skills too. I love that moment. And then my face was on fire when you were talking about, I'm going to use my own language around this. But my face, my cheeks were on fire, and there was so much emotion welling up for me when you were talking about like the incongruence of what you're coming out with and what you understand about what it means to be a coach, somatic coach, body-oriented coach, and the incongruence with so much of what we see in like whatever I'm going to call it big coaching or online, specifically business coaches, coaching coaches, or just like going out into the world and going on to social media and like, why are you calling this coaching? This is advice giving, or this is leading, or this is not client centered. And I think that my face was on fire because it frustrates me. It frustrates me, the negative stereotypes or not even understandings or experiences people have had, or whether it's been with a coach that they've had or just an assumption they have based on like that Instagram version of what coaching is, and like having to come up against that and say like, hey, no, not, at least not in the way I was trained. This is what I do. And almost like that starting from a deficit as a result of that, and then feeling that incongruence and trying to rectify that. That's been such a journey for me. Yeah. Still every single day is a journey as well. Oh.
Yeah, definitely felt.
I'm tired.
And feeling that kind of when you said deficit, it feels, my experience has been, well, there's two things. There's two sides, and this is not putting more weight on any side. But what I've come to realize for myself is that with this work, there's an educational, I would say, responsibility. I feel that continues to develop the more you decide to deepen in what you're doing. So there's obviously the ongoing education for yourself, interest, but what I've come to find, especially on the internet, is that there's a responsibility for me to educate my audience as well as coach and hold space for those that we desire to work with each other. But the educational part is not only just from the brand perspective, but also like the precursor of, yo, your understanding of coaching because of who you've seen on the internet is quite far removed from what I know coaching to be. And so there's a whole educational like module or two before, in most cases, I can start to engage in a conversation with individuals about what it is that I actually do, because there's a conversation to support the potential unlearning of what they have learned coaching to be. And I feel that kind of puts like a film or a filter over coaching and the transformational nature of a coaching conversation or a coaching container is almost like this film that needs to be gently removed before individuals can see the power and the value of what coaching is in some cases. And then you have the other layer of what is somatic, right? So we haven't even kind of gone there in what coaching is in our perspectives and our experience. Then you've got the layer of, okay, what does somatic mean? How does that differ to what you've now shared with me about coaching? And then you may continue if the individual feels it's right for you, or it's right for you to engage. Yeah, just even saying that is like, oh, can be tiresome and also very rewarding. But to give that nuance again for those, for someone who might be listening and you may find yourself in that space as well, and my encouragement is to keep going, is to seek what support you can in yourself, in others around you. Because there's ways through, for sure, and it's a process.
Yeah. Something that just came up for me just as you were speaking, it was this like coaching to revolutionize systems and status quo. I think a lot about how coaching and how we learned it, what I believe it to be is so effing revolutionary to just hold someone in unconditional positive regard and have this understanding of you are creative, resourceful, and whole, and you are an integrated whole. And your body has so much wisdom that can be honored. Like those things for me are so subversive to so many of the current systems that I see, perceive in the Western world. Like I'm like, this is a revolution when done right. And so it's almost like this, are you operating as a coach to shift the status quo, or to it's not continue is not the word, but to like bolster, to perpetuate? Are you perpetuating the status quo with the way that you're a coach, or are you creating something, a new way of existing and being and honoring yourself and one another? I don't know. That's here for me. Hey, little things.
I feel like that's really similar to right before we hit record. I was saying something sort of like that, which is one of my biggest things, and it's sort of very related to everything both of you were just saying. The biggest responsibilities I've been feeling recently as a space holder and as a retreat leader and as a yoga teacher and as a coach and as someone who's been through this work is this idea of I want my best case scenario with a coachee or someone who comes on a retreat, not someone who does yoga, because yoga is something you continue doing the rest of your life. But best case scenario is we finish with a coachee in 3 months or 6 months. And I think one of the biggest differences, sort of like broad blanket statement between coaching and something ongoing, is it's like I believe fully in an individual's ability. And this is something that comes from client-centered coaching, I guess, and other, like, sort of in general, is to heal and to progress and to learn the things that I am able to offer and teach, and that y'all, like, the things we learned from the Somatic School, and take that and apply it in their lives and create change, which is to say, like, I think another thing that happens in the coaches who coach coaches cycle is there's always another big ticket, and there's always something next, and there's always a mastermind, and there's always something more you can buy and more you can achieve. And for me, it's like, no, I want to trust that. I mean, and obviously there's people who need more time or less time based on all of their life circumstances, but I want to trust in a human being who has found somatic coaching, and not as a coach, but a person who's going to a somatic coach, whether they work in finance or law or nonprofits, whatever it is, that they can learn the skills and not need me anymore. Like, my biggest goal with any client as a coach, and then also I lead retreats, and I lead really, in my opinion, fun, beautiful retreats in Italy and the Mediterranean. And it's a vacation, and it's also a really deep internal experience. I want people as repeat customers, but I don't want them coming on the exact same retreat every single time, because ultimately I want to trust that the things I'm offering on retreats, you can then take them, and then your next level is something completely different, which is to say, baseline, if I'm coaching you, I trust and believe that you do not need me to coach you for the rest of your life. I'm not a crutch. Like, please get out there, get into your body, do your thing, figure out the, like, resourcing that you have inside of you, and apply that to the world, which is, I think, again, we called it predatory coaching industry before. There's a lot of, like, you need me to be able to act. It's guru culture, right? You need me to be able to access this. It's like, oh goodness, no, I'm not necessary. I'm just here. Take it. Go forth. Like, please. And that's something I feel like isn't necessarily just unique to the Somatic School, but is something that we all have, is the ability to train people or to heal people and then release them.
What comes up with me, I think resonates most of what you shared, and especially the advice part. This is actually something that it has been very present with me, especially after the training. And I do see that, and I resonate with Mike says that I cannot unsee what I've learned, right? It's there now, and every time there is an advice coming which is unsolicited, it's kind of, I feel like, was this needed there, and why did this come up? Um, and I don't have a very formed idea yet, but what I'm thinking is that I feel like we are in a moment of this world, in a society where we are bombarded by unsolicited advices, right? I mean, social media is basically that. There is people telling you every day how you should live your life, and especially in the self-help industry, so the coaching industry, and this is for me also a struggle to see, okay, how do I fit in all of this? Because the message I want to give is the opposite of what I'm receiving every day. That's still a challenge for me. I still don't know how to fit into that, because in a way, I imagine it's important to be present somehow. People know what you're trying to do, and I don't want to end up doing what I feel it's a little bit away from the message that, especially with in the somatic field, we are trying to give, which is, I think we touched that point, but in my opinion, the message is that we are just be. Sounds very, I don't know, cheeky. I don't know how to say that. No, I don't know this word, but that doesn't sound what I want to say. But the work we do, I think, supports people into just being present with their experience. And that's all I would support people to do. Just sit with your experience, navigate through it, and learn that it's possible, and you can do that. Accept whatever is happening. And I feel it's very difficult to try to be part of this sea of informations every day and advices. So what you should do, what book you should read, what time you should wake up in the morning, what meditation you should do, and what kind of positions you should take every day. and what you should drink or not. Um, yeah, that's interesting. For me, it's still a big topic on how do I fit into all of this, how this word of just accepting your experience and leave it, or just leave. Yeah, how does it fit in that? Yeah, that's what's up with me mainly, which is a big topic. Probably we would need other 2 hours to go through that. Like we can go for it for now, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Yeah. And Davide, I feel like you just did such a lovely job of almost like summarizing and just bringing that home, and in just your just gentle, lovely way. So thank you for that. And yeah, this is such a valuable conversation, and one that I hope that we continue, because there is a place for mentorship and for training and for advice. There's absolutely a place for that. But this is something different. This is, what you said, like supporting people to be present with themselves. And I think it begs this question of, there's so much advice, there's so much content. How do I distill it down? How do I know what to do and what to follow? And I feel that in my own life. And it's just this simple answer of what feels true for you, what feels resonant for you, and just the simplicity of guiding people and just coming back to self, and in guiding and supporting people to come back to themselves, to recognize that they already know the answer. The answer is there for them. And I love this. Yeah. I love you guys. So much more to say. And this, I think, in a really nice way, something that I had mentioned before we got on the call is what was alive for me is this idea of how do we continue to support each other? How do we stay with this? And I love knowing what you all have been navigating and what is still challenging you, and feeling the resonance there, and just the opportunity for continued conversation and support for each other. So yeah, maybe this is an invitation for us, as well as whoever's listening, to stay connected with the support systems that you have and the people that you feel resonance with, because there's such a common thread to what we're navigating. And it's just back to where we began as well, which is what has been so lovely in this whole experience of this podcast and the Somatic School, is just finding those other people that are maybe navigating something similar, and feeling the power and the joy and validation that comes with just being present with each other and remembering that that's there. I don't know if any of the words I just said made sense, but that just came from my whole wide open heart. And so I'd love to just an opportunity to close out this experience. If anyone else would just like to share, what's with them now, what's alive for them.
What's alive for me?
That.
Go. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mike.
I see the finger being pointed at me. What's alive for me? And I would say it's like this, like the remaining seasoning from whatever food we've been indulging in this conversation. On that last part, with regards to kind of, the advice given in comparison versus the coaching, what we know it to be. So what was coming up for me and what just kept ringing true is reclaiming our sovereignty. Reclaiming our sovereignty in the sense that we are creative, resourceful, and whole. You, listener, are creative, resourceful, and whole. And so there's just something that's ringing true for me in terms of remembering that, yes, hire a coach. And remember that at the same time, whether it be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, you have the resources within you to be able to continue on your own discovery and development journey. And for me, that's what this work is about. This work is about being able to guide, be a steward, be a support, and shine a light in those areas that may be a little bit dark for individuals, or they haven't seen because they're the blind spots, to be able to now see them a bit more clearly and utilize those insights to integrate within themselves and move forward in the way that they want to move forward in life. That reaffirmation that we have the power to reclaim our sovereignty.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
I can comment after that, because I was going to say a remembrance is what's alive for me. And you said remembering, and I'm like, it's just a remembrance. And actually, because it feels so relevant, because who else would I ever say this to? So my internet cut out, and I'm in America and I don't live here. And so I don't have internet on my phone. So I turned it on. It just, like, a lot of things happened. And one of those seconds where the internet was out, I put my phone down and I just screamed and, like, jumped up and down. And I just felt fine afterwards. It was just like, oh yeah, this is life. This is fine. It's not that big of a deal. And I never would have known it's like the remembrance. I know to do that. I know to jump around and scream, and that everything feels a little better once you do that in a safe and healthy way. But the fact that just happened right here, and I got this full remembrance of being with y'all and just remembering exactly what you said, Mike, too, is just like, we're all able to do this. And, like, what a beautiful thing to be able to resource with y'all, and then to know that everyone in the world is capable of getting to this place of being present and, like, kind of just, like, trusting the process and remembering who they are. So, Mike, that was very cool how you addressed the listener before. So I want to do it too, because it was very cool. It was just, like, I was like, wow, yeah, that's a great thing to do on a podcast. And so I am also going to say, listener, like, you can trust the process. Like, we're all already whole. And it's really cool to be with y'all and remember that. And think about the skills I have now from being with y'all 2 years ago that I didn't have before that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I have much to add. I resonate, and maybe my invitation is to listen to, learning to listen to ourselves and what we feel. I think it's a skill. It takes a bit of time. It might be scary at first, because I imagine sometimes some voices we have in our head or in our body are outside of what is expected from us. So it can be very scary. And I do believe it's important. I guess it's great. It's very nice when we listen to all our parts, and it's fine to have conflicting parts within ourselves. I think it's very normal. So I would just invite everyone to get that space and allow yourself to do that. And with some support helps. Having someone that supports those conversations in our heads sometimes as well, that really helps. I think I would go for that. And one thing I want to add as well, how much this advices thing, it has been very present with me, that I even got a tattoo which says, wait. I don't know if you ever heard this. I read it somewhere and I really liked it. The wait stands for, why am I talking? Yeah. I don't know if you have heard that already. And I love that. It's true. Why do I give advices? Why do I tell people what to do? Is it because I need to feel good about it, or is it because the person in front of me needs that? And so this advice thing is very present with me. I even got a tattoo for it. So I love this conversation. Yeah.
Should we all get weight tattoos?
I'm doing it the other day after seeing that. I literally was like, oh, I have some space on my wrist underneath my Basquiat tattoo.
It's a good reminder.
Want one.
Listener, We're encouraging you. No, we're not encouraging listeners to all get this
To get a tattoo.
tattoo. It's not giving that advice. I
Exactly.
I think what's with me from a little bit of what you all shared is, and maybe an encouragement to the listener, to myself, all of the above. And really what I am hoping, what I believe I've been modeling through this podcast is that it's okay to be in process. It's okay to wait. It's okay to allow silence. It's okay to not know what's next or how to listen, or while we are whole, it's okay to also not feel fully formed, and to just be in between and navigating and uncovering. And yeah, I love this conversation of just bringing light to what's wanting to emerge, what's wanting to unfold, what's currently unfolding, because I think that even brings us back to, and maybe I'm identifying what feels incongruent or what feels different when looking at something like social media, or what people are presenting coaching as is and what people are selling as this finished product. But maybe that doesn't exist. It's okay to be in process and to be always uncovering and searching, and that it's curiosity that is human, not I already know, or I know, or I'm complete. It's I'm whole in my incompleteness, in my not knowing, in my finding out, in my uncovering, and my unfolding. So yeah, that's really here for me. That's really alive for me. And just, yeah, I appreciate you all for showing up so vulnerably and with so much openness. Yeah, it's okay to say I love you to people that you only know digitally. I love you guys. And I'm just appreciating, just appreciating the rawness and the realness that's here. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you and being in process and just letting it fly.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much as well.
Thank you all. Yeah. Mwah.
Yeah. I'm going to stop the recording here. Thank you for joining us, listeners. I hope that you got as much as I did out of this conversation. That's our show, folks. I hope you found something nourishing, enjoyable, or inspiring in today's episode. Thank you for being here, and see you next time. In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at Radio Somanaut. You can also find out more about the Somatic School and our accredited diploma in body-oriented coaching at thesomaticschool.com, or follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. This is Whitney Dawn Pyles, encouraging you to stay present, stay curious, and stay connected.